another thing popped up. One of our favorite subjects on the timeline here the past couple days, conference realignment is back in the news again. If you follow Sporadics right here, the Renegade report, most of the time we've been Big Ten proponents of the Big Ten. Chris and James were on the story like a year before anybody. Florida State's been behind the scenes getting ready for their requirements for the AAU, even though that's not a requirement for the Big Ten. And they came out and said so much in a press release kind of around the time that Florida State was in the news. AD Michael Alford came out and pretty much said, and I think it was a bot meeting and a different press conference, pretty much told the world, look, we cannot stay in the ACC. We cannot be losing 30, 40, $50 million a year in revenue off TV just in that one position year after year. And it ended up didn't happen. We passed the date this year when you had to kind of put your name in to be in a new conference by 2024. But I myself, along with others, have kind of thought all along it would be 25 or 26. And now there's some murmurs, behind the scenes. And with Chris as kind of the realignment expert among us, we'll let him go first. Is there anything that people need to know? I know you stay on top of this thing. That you can say. I know there's only so much you can say when it comes to these things without.
Well, I'll give people the rumors first as far as what's going on. First and foremost, there's a lot of people that think there's something coming out tomorrow about it. I can't confirm or deny that, but I can say that it wouldn't surprise me at all if it comes out tomorrow. But a lot of people are confused. They think we're not going to leave until 2026. Florida State will not play in a – hold me to it, and y'all can all unfollow me if you want to. Florida State will not play in the ACC conference in 2025. It will not happen. I don't care what anybody tells you, or I don't care what comes out as far as ESPN says or anybody else. They will not play the ACC conference in 2025. I know that for a fact. A lot of people want to see us go to the SEC because they think the travel is better. The travel is not worth $22.5 million a year. What I mean by that is the Big Ten is going to pay us $22.5 million more than what the SEC would. The SEC is going to make us wait 5 years before we get fully invested. The Big Ten will not. And then on top of that, when you're part of the AAU, you will receive $500 and something billion a year in research money for the rest of the university. So it makes no sense for you to want to go to the SEC other than ESPN has – look, guys, I don't know if you watch CNN. I don't care if you watch Fox. I don't care which ones you watch. Their job is to tell you all the exact same things so that that's what you know. Being misinformed is being informed. That's what ESPN has done to listeners for decades. It's to push their narrative and where you want to go watch it. They have told the SEC is the best conference. The SEC is the powerhouse. The SEC is this. The SEC is that. That's because that's their investment. They don't have investment in the Big Ten. They got zero. So they're not going to talk up the ACC. They're not going to talk up the Big Ten. Now, they were supposed to talk up the ACC, but the ACC network has lost them money every physical year that it's been here. So they're not going to talk about it. They're not going to say the ACC does anything good. They're a basketball conference, blah, the fuck, blah. So I would also do the same thing if I was ESPN, control the narrative. Well, what's our best seller? The SEC. That's what we're going to promote. I'm going to leave the rest of this shit alone because I'm losing money on it. Now, Florida State and Clemson has made them money as far as individual games go, but that's what gets them close to breaking even as far as what those two teams do. And that's only on the ACC side. So Miami has been a complete letdown to the ACC ever since they joined 22 years ago. They're a joke. Can't help it. So it would not surprise me if something said tomorrow, but all that matters is that 2025 you're not playing in that conference and you're elsewhere and making the money that the school deserves.
I love to hear it. And one of the points somebody brought up on the spaces, it's not like, if you stay in the ACC, they're adding SMU, they're adding Cal, they're adding all these other teams, Stanford. So even if you stayed in the SEC every other year, or probably once a year, you're headed out the West Coast to play a Cal or a Stanford or SMU or one of these teams. So, why not travel in the Big Ten? If you're going to be traveling to California in the damn ACC with all the issues that Chris lined out. And here's my thing. Here's what I tell people all the time. when you get into these major corporations, Fortune 500 companies, people operating business at the highest level, like one of the biggest things that money goes into, like half of all the expenses of the entire thing will go into advertising, marketing, and stuff like that. And the SEC, with the help of guys like ESPN, but also just having great commissioners, for the past 30 years, they have pushed that. They've won the titles, which helps too. They've had, two or three top teams year in, year out. So that's helped them. But they've just done an amazing job at marketing. Okay. And regardless if SEC has won, the ACC has done so far on the polar opposite that even though we're second and third, and I say we, hopefully no more than a year, it's not going to be we anymore. But the ACC is actually second or third when you want to look at draft picks, titles, All Americans, all these different things. So, yeah, get us the hell out of there. And, the problem with the SEC is just exactly what Chris was just talking about, too, is they're tied up with the ACC. I feel like the Big Ten is just way freer when it comes to making their bids and having packages for Florida State with no conflicting interests whatsoever. They just all out to go out and get an FSU and a Clemson when SEC has in-state teams that are going to cause issues and everything else. So, yeah, I can't wait. I love the fact that you're so confident that it'll be next year because let's get that announcement in by next year.
So are you saying that the ACC network spending time promoting women's lacrosse is not really working out? Is that where we're going? Okay.
Yeah, it's nuts, the programming, like when they first launched that thing. It's just like unreal. It was shortly after the national championship by Florida State. And it was like you said, it was all lacrosse and women's basketball and stuff. Which is women's basketball, we love it. We'll support the Florida State women's basketball team, but the numbers are there. Even when Florida State's down, year in, year out, they move the needle. They make the numbers. They make the bacon. They bring it home, and it's apparent. This season, as always, Florida State just moves the needle. It's the reason you have Van Wilders and the program and all these different kind of Hollywood incantations of what a college football party school is. Who do they use every time? It's always Florida State.
When you're on the ACC network and your premier commercial is My Pillow 2.0, it's not doing nothing. It doesn't. And then the games that are played there, hell, let's be honest. The CW has gotten a better ACC game, even though it wasn't ACC versus ACC. But they've gotten a better ACC game than the ACC has in 2 years. It's just not. It's not good. It's sad. And a lot of people in the comments were saying, you don't understand how Florida State's going to leave without an actual destination. All I can tell you is if you don't think that they have a destination,
they do.
You're not paying any attention to what's going on. That's all I can say. You're putting blinders on and saying we're not leaving. And that no athletic director comes out publicly in a meeting for the entire board and says we can't stay here if they don't have somewhere to go. And look, this is out there. I'm not saying something that people shouldn't know. You just may not because you don't pay attention. But for the last 3 years, we have sent Florida State players, and we're the only ACC team to do so. We have sent Florida State players to the Big Ten walk. Why? For what reason? No one else does it. The SEC don't send anyone. The Pac-12 doesn't send anyone. No one else sends players to there. And then this year, Miami sent a couple to the Big Ten. UVA sent a couple to the Big Ten. North Carolina sent a couple to the Big Ten. We sent 8. I don't know what else to tell you. It's all written right there. You also got to pay attention to where Michael Alford came from. Michael Alford's best friends with the majority of the members of the Big Ten Conference. Then you hire, it's kind of simple, but you go and hire the president from Harvard who knows how to get the AAU membership. Not that you need it to be in the Big Ten, but it helps because you want the $500 million in research money. Florida State's that close to getting it. You don't have to be in the Big Ten to get AAU membership. There's plenty of SEC schools and ACC schools that have it. Miami just got it this year. But Florida State is this close. It's all written right in front of you, but if the only thing you look at is what's going on the field or on the court or on the diamond, you're not paying attention to what the university is doing as far as they're making moves, who they're talking to, who's coming and visiting, where they're going to visit. And then you're sending players to, it doesn't make any sense to do that if you're not trying to go to that specific conference. And then to top it off, it was a bidding war, let's be honest, between the SEC and the Big Ten. The SEC thinks they're too big for their own good. So it wasn't hard for the Big Ten to say, well, we won't make you wait, and you're going to make $22 million more a year for the next 5 years. Well, it's not in question where you go at that point. Money talks and bullshit walks. That's the SEC. So to me, it's not hard, but y'all can look it up for yourself.
I mean,
Dude, it's like go ahead, Jen.
Oh no, I was just going to say, and people don't understand that Nebraska is not AAU, and so everybody's like, well, it's not going to be the Big Ten because Florida State isn't accredited, and it's, well, Nebraska isn't either. So you're kind of putting blinders on because you have this SEC like gold in your eyes. And I'm sorry, give me the Big Ten all day, every day. I'll take it.
It's like knowing your girl's cheating on you. Every sign is there. You go get up in the morning, go use the bathroom. You put the toilet seat up. There's a note underneath the toilet seat. Hey man, sorry I banged your girlfriend last night.
Yeah, if you think y'all are getting married and everything's hunky dory, you've got blinders on. You're being quite naive, and that's how it is with this AAU thing. The leadership walk, like Chris was talking about. Yeah, you just keep telling people it's Big Ten, and hopefully, along the rumors things, if there's an announcement, that'd be great. But as long as we hear it before, whenever it is, I believe it's sometime either right before the season or right after the season starts, you have to put in, to be able to play for the following season. As long as we don't miss that deadline, I'll be happy, and we'll be good to go in 2025 in our new conference, whether it be the SEC or the Big Ten. But again, we have all of our money on the Big Ten. And now, kind of to what's at hand. It's hate week. It's all about hell with Florida. Let's start off with Florida State offense versus Florida defense. Florida hires, they get them a new defensive coordinator. They like to run a little bit of 4-3, a little bit of 3-4, middle field close coverage. The word creeper gets thrown around, which is a 5-man front, which is a little different than a 4-man front. Austin Armstrong, he's going to have his guys ready. But I want to hear what everybody thinks about Tate Rodemaker versus defense. I can't wait to see it. I think he's going to tear them up. I think Florida kind of has a thing going on similar to what we had last year, but even a worse situation because they're just so young in that they have a good kind of first run of defense is okay. But after that, when they get into depth, I mean, it's real trouble. And anybody can go first. But what y'all think about that Florida State offense versus that Swiss cheese?
Florida's going to throw a lot of different fronts at Tate, but what Florida State's going to do to counteract that is they're going to establish control at the line of scrimmage. They're going to run Trey Benson, LT, and Keziah straight down their throats, and they're going to take the pressure off Tate and allow Tate to go a little bit of play action with the RPO. They're not going to make Tate run, but Tate will be a willing runner. And what they'll do is they'll keep Florida's defense off balance. And that's not a good sign, especially when Tate's out there throwing dimes. And if anybody didn't see it last week, or you got any thoughts that Tate might not be able to do this, obviously you haven't been watching since after the Louisville game, since the second half of the Louisville game last year. That kid went out there throwing dimes.
Yeah,
that was great. Yeah,
I wanted to answer this question real quick before we keep talking about this because Karen Herzog was wanting to know. As far as getting out of the league, it's not like it matters which one. It just there is a fee that Florida State will have to go through to get out of the ACC grant of rights. It's not like it'd be more if you went to the SEC or more for the Big Ten. It's just what offer we're getting, how much money we're getting from them. That's the only question. But yeah, I agree with you, Chip, 100%, man. I'm so excited, and I think for sure they'll run the hell out of the ball. And, we've talked about it a lot too. People don't realize Tate, he's a hell of an athlete. Like, he's going to pull it probably more than what Jordan has. Jordan being so, old and being more just wanting to throw the ball and just all about health. I mean, he's starting out the last game of the year heading into championship season. So he's going to let it all hang out. He really loves that RPO game like Chip was talking about. Keziah Holmes is one guy that you mentioned that I really love, that I wanted to see more and more snaps of. So I'm hoping we get to see a good 10 to 15 carries out of him in this game.
I was just going to say one thing about that one question that you just read. I think that most people think that if Florida State could get in the SEC, that ESPN would help them out with those parental rights, which is not happening. So I think that's why that question comes up, because they think, is it going to cost less money if you go to the SEC? I think that's where that's coming from, is just from that narrative. That anyway, that's all I had to say.
I'm gonna give 2 quick points on this real quick. Step 1, sue Florida State if you want to. They're a state facility. They have a law here that says that you can only sue them for up to $250,000 to fucking go at it. Step two, how you get out of this. Next year, when the SEC starts paying their teams 80-something million a year, the Big Ten starts paying something around 98 to 101. Now the contract of the ACC has been breached between them and every team that's in it. Their contracts are meant to do nothing but be broken.
Yep.
That's what a contract is. It's meant to be broken. So I would, as a Florida State leaves this son of a bitch and don't pay a dime to them, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Not at all. Because they
honestly, Fox wants Florida State. That's why the whole Big Ten thing is in there in the first place. That's where it's coming from. People can talk about ESPN all you want to, but guess who has more money? I hate to break this news to people, but it's Fox. And Fox wants those eyeballs so bad, they can't stand it.